Welcome to the Wander Women's Collective podcast. I'm your host, Gracie Hintz, and today I am chatting with Anna Myers. Anna is the founder and creator of Dirty Birdy Workwear, a women's workwear pants company. And I'm just so psyched about this conversation. It was actually really cool. I was in my house in Salt Lake a couple weeks ago, and I was complaining about all of my workwear pants. And how none of them are made for women. I really just end up wearing men's workwear pants at the moment because nobody takes into account like the women's body. Anywho's, I was in my kitchen and one of my roommates was like, "Oh my gosh, Gracie, I totally know this company that's about to launch and you should, check out their pants." So then obviously instead of checking out the pants, I reached out to Anna and I'm like, "Hey Anna, do you want to come be on the podcast? Because this is one of my most secret side passions, women's workwear pants." Anywho's, I'm so happy that I got to sit down and talk with Anna. The pants also just launched last week, so if you are in need of some women's workwear pants, please check out her website at dirtybirdy.com. It is pretty incredible, and I actually just ordered a pair of pants last week, so I'm super psyched on it. But yeah, without further ado, here is our conversation. First of all, thank you so much again for coming on the
Yeah,
podcast. I'm so
yeah.
excited to jump more into this. So my favorite question to first off start asking people is just a little bit of like who you are and what you spend your time doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Not getting kind of straight into the the business
Hmm.
side of it. Yeah, so I am a Midwest girl at heart. I live in California now, but I was born and raised in a small town in Michigan. Big family. I'm the youngest of four. So yeah, I grew up pretty into sports. I was very into tennis. We were definitely a tennis and golf family. All my siblings played. I played tennis in college, and in high school I got into horseback riding as well, and that's still a big passion of mine. I love horses and riding, and with a little one at home, and currently I'm actually pregnant. I'm
Oh
like
my
22
gosh.
weeks pregnant, so I it's like one of the worst parts about pregnancy. I can't ride anymore. Unfortunately, I miss it so much, but that's been a big part of my life. So yeah, I love being active, love playing sports, love riding. So I went to school in Michigan after I graduated college. I actually moved to Alaska for about 6 months. It's like one of my favorite places. And then after my Alaska stint, is when I moved out to the West Coast, which is where I am now. So I'm in California, based in the Santa Cruz Mountains. I live here with my husband and our little 1-year-old Crosby. We've been here for 5 years now, or going on 5 years, and we moved from San Francisco. So we lived in San Francisco for about 4.5, almost 5 years, and then are now in the Santa Cruz Mountains. So yeah, a lot of our time right now is spent working on Dirty Birdie, and then obviously our little one Crosby at home. He just turned 1 2 days ago. So he's at such a fun stage. So yeah, not a ton of free time at the moment, but in the little free time I do have, love getting outdoors, hiking, anything active. And, like I said, used to ride horses and play tennis a lot, but those are kind of hobbies that have come and gone now that I've started having kids.
I was just gonna say, like having a 1-year-old and then like you're also in the middle of launching a business and you're pregnant.
We we've got, as my husband and I like to say, we've got a lot of irons in the fire right now. And this isn't even, as I
Yeah.
mentioned to you, this isn't even my full-time job. So I actually have like a corporate 9 to 5 job. So
Oh
this
my gosh.
is on the side. So, and we're currently also building a little studio next to our house. So yeah, we've got a ton going on right now. It's a little bit chaotic, but it's all fun stuff. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, no, that's wild. I'm thoroughly impressed by that.
Thanks. I think I'm one of those
Especially,
people that thrives on being busy, so it's not too
yeah.
surprising that we have so much going on.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm curious, what took you up to Alaska for that 6 months?
Yeah, so basically once I graduated, I knew I wanted to do some sort of traveling. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I was born and raised in Michigan, had done a little bit of traveling like through family vacations and stuff, but just felt like there was so much of the world I still wanted to see. And I always wanted to study abroad in college and never got the opportunity to, just through playing a sport. I played tennis in college, and so that was restrictive. And so I was like, okay, well, once I graduate, I'll go try and do, some traveling before getting into like a career type job. while I have the chance or the opportunity or the time being young. And the summer before I graduated, I went there to Alaska for the first time on vacation with my parents. My brother was actually um working at the military base up there, kind of on and off. He was contracting for them. And we had never been, so my parents were like, "Oh, let's go visit your brother." And so we went on like a 2 week vacation and I just like absolutely loved it. And
Where
yeah,
in Alaska?
I really wanted to go to Europe when I graduated, and my parents were like, absolutely not. You're not going to Europe as a like 21-year-old by yourself. That's not happening. And so it's like, okay, fine. Well, I'm gonna go to the furthest possible place within the United States that I'm going to Alaska.
That's funny because in my head I'm like Alaska and Europe, and I feel like most parents would probably more encourage the Europe part of that rather
I
than
know,
like, yeah, just go
totally.
hang out in Alaska. What were you doing for work up there?
Yeah, backfired on that a little bit. Um, so I lived in Seward and I was
Okay.
working at a restaurant. I was actually just a waitress. And it was just for a summer season. So for anyone, I don't know if you've been to Alaska or familiar, but a ton of the work up there, obviously, with the long winters is seasonal. So it's just for a summer
Hmm.
season. I was there from like, I think beginning of May or maybe end of April through the end of October. And yeah, the restaurant shuts down in the winter, so it was just for the summer season. But it was so fun. I love it up there. It's such a different world. You don't feel like yeah, you literally just feel like you're in a different world, and it's so beautiful. And there's
Yeah,
naturey things to explore and visit. Did lots of fishing, hiking, all that good stuff.
quite stunning. I got to spend a little bit of time in Sitka this last summer, and it was my first time up in Alaska.
Oh,
And it
cool.
was, but it's wild in the summer, and especially like with the cruise ships and like how it is just
Yeah.
such a seasonal workflow of people.
Yeah.
Like it was very cool and very interesting, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was pretty wild.
Yeah, it's pretty trippy too with the light, like, and
Oh
especially in the
yeah.
dead of the summer when it's like 11 p.m. and just like broad daylight. It's
Hmm.
pretty crazy. But yeah, it really is a different life. A lot of the friends I made that worked in the restaurant with me, that was what they would do. They would spend the summer in Alaska and then go find like another seasonal job where it was summer somewhere else, where it's winter here. So they'd go to like Hawaii or New
Yeah.
Zealand or Australia, or they'd go work a summer somewhere else and then
Yes.
spend the summer in
The
Alaska.
never ending summer rotation.
Yeah, exactly. Which is,
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is, but I know. I'd like the roots.
Yeah.
Okay, so then jumping into Dirty Birdie, like
Yeah.
this whole concept, how did it come about?
Yeah, so I know we were just talking, so a little repetitive for you, but I guess kind of long story short, so my husband and I in 2020 we bought a fixer-upper. I would say a livable fixer-upper. It was built in the 1970s and everything is original. So like bright orange carpet everywhere, like mustard yellow kitchen appliances, saloon doors in the hallway, like the whole nine yards. And so we very quickly, became all consumed with house projects. That was like all we would do was like, okay, what can we fix up next? Like, or what room can we work on next? And as kind of young, broke 20 something year olds who had just bought a house, like we didn't have money to get like pay a contractor to do all the work we wanted. And so we would just do it ourselves. And so yeah, I typically was wearing like my nice running or yoga leggings, and that's just what's comfortable to me. That's what I live in kind of. And so that was what I was wearing when I was doing all these projects, and I pretty quickly wore holes in a lot of them. And so I went online to go buy some actual like durable workwear. I was like, well, these house projects aren't going to be ending anytime soon, so I should probably buy some appropriate clothing. So I went online and I couldn't find really what I was looking for. I was kind of, I guess for lack of a better word, a little bit shocked that there was a million and one options for men, and it didn't seem like there were hardly any options for women. And so, yeah, that was kind of how the idea came about. I was like, I can't be the only one that wants these types of pants. And really, I think one of the distinguishing things for me was something because there are, women's workwear brands out there that exist. Not that many, but there are some. And for me, it was like I wanted a pair of pants that I didn't feel like I could only wear in the workshop or that I could only wear
Mm-hmm.
like doing these house projects. Like if we were, working on whatever we were working on that day and then wanted to go like meet friends for a beer at a brewery or something, like I didn't want to feel like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I gotta like change out of my work pants. Like I wanted something that was also like flattering and comfy and, my multi-purpose as well. So yeah, that was kind of how the idea of Dirty Birdie came about.
Yes, well, and also I love that so much because that's exactly how I think about the pants that I'm always trying to find and buy.
Yeah.
Because, like, for me, I also travel a lot for work, and so it's like you need this like capsule wardrobe. And like
Yeah.
often too, it's like, okay, like how can I fit in an activity after work as well? And so it's going from like, okay, I need a pair of pants that I can like be out and like mucking around in dirt potentially and like kneeling down on things and like feel like they're an appropriate work pant to then like
Mhm.
okay like maybe I could like stop at the climbing gym afterwards or like go
Yeah.
out to dinner afterwards before getting back to the hotel room, and so like having something that is like that full package thing. And
Yeah.
also like I think you do see more guys that are just like able to do that.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
like look at them and I'm just like, you guys wear the same pants for everything. I'm like, why don't I always feel like I have a pair of pants that I can just like wear for everything. So yeah,
Completely.
that's
I 100% agree.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so like starting a like going from like, okay, I need a pair of pants to then like, okay, I'm actually gonna start a company. And
Yeah.
like, had you had any prior experience with any of the process of like what building a pants company looks like?
No, not at all. Like literally zero. I would say even like maybe negative
Yeah.
experience because I am like not a fashionable person. Like I've never been into been that into clothing. And so yeah, and so there was some hesitation, obviously. I'm
Yeah.
actually, I studied engineering in school. I'm a solutions engineer, for my
Mm-hmm.
day job. So nothing related to like clothing manufacturing, clothing design, business for that matter. Like I have
Mm-hmm.
had no experience in any of that, which is I feel like a prime example of like really if you set your mind to anything with a little determination and grit, you can really do anything. I hope I can like inspire anyone that's listening that it's like if you have an idea, just go for it. Just start somewhere because it
Yeah.
like I literally I can't even tell you like I had zero experience in any of this. Like I think so when we like finally decided, okay, let's try and go for this, I used to wake up really, really early in the morning at like 4 a.m. to like try
Oh
and get
my
a couple
gosh.
hours in before my job. And I started out by literally Googling like, how do you design a pair of pants? Like pattern making, like just the
Yeah.
most basic of like design concepts for clothing. But it's like you really just have to start somewhere and then it kind of snowballs and snowballs. And for us, I was super fortunate to stumble upon the product design agency we work with right now. Their name is
Mm-hmm.
Apparel Mark. They're based in Vancouver and they've been amazing. They've really helped us, especially having lack of knowledge in like the fashion and clothing and like
Yeah.
manufacturing side of it. They've really like been invaluable for that piece of it. They've helped us pretty much from ideation to creation of the pants. So, um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I did not have any prior experience, so it's been a huge learning curve, which has also been, I feel like, half the fun of it, being able to be a little bit more creative and, learn something completely new and a completely new
Yeah.
industry.
So with the first pair of like pants that you were making, were you fully designing it? Or were you like what does it kind of look like to work with that other company as well?
Yeah, yeah, good question. So, how that process worked or what it looked like is basically we came to them with our idea, gave them kind of like just talked through what we kind of envisioned for the pants, like purpose,
Mm-hmm.
function, like little details like circum pockets, that type of thing. And then they went back and did also some of their own market research of like, trends and stuff like that, and then presented us with a bunch of ideas. And then we picked what we liked and then just like
Mm-hmm.
iterated a bunch from there to like tweak it to exactly what we wanted.
That seems
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
little bit less intimidating than like, okay, I need to like come up
Yeah.
with this whole idea by myself.
Yeah, exactly. And like before this whole process, I had never thought about like how is a pair of pants made? Like where does the fabric come from? Like once you have the fabric, how do you like cut it? How is it sewn together? Like what? Like I had never
Mm-hmm.
thought about really the details that go into making a pair of pants or any garment really. And there's so much more detail than I think the average person probably ever thinks about. So yeah, we are super fortunate to be able to work with them on that. They've educated me and us so much.
What
Yeah.
were some of the details that you were like, these are non-negotiables?
Um, So, I mean, a big piece of that I feel like is the functionality. So, like making sure that like the fabric is extremely durable, making sure that there's like reinforcements where we need them. So, like for example, the carpenter pant has like double fabric on the knee. It has like the knee patch or
Mhm.
the reinforced knee. For the legging, same thing. It has reinforced knees, like double fabric on the knee as well as on the bum, certain like pocket placements, that type of thing. And I mean, it like we iterated as we went as well. Like it wasn't, I would say even, and this is, I guess even another hesitation point when we were starting, like I didn't have a super clear vision of like, this is exactly what I want the pants to look like. I just knew
Yeah.
like, okay, I wanted something that was really durable while also being really comfortable and flattering to a woman's body. Because as you and I were talking about, it seemed like a lot of the brands that offer at least men's and women's, like the women's lines end up being an afterthought, or it's almost like they just took the men's pants and just like shrunk the measurements,
Yep.
which, as we all know, men and women have very different body types, very different builds. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, my main goal was to make like a really durable pant that was also, not going to compromise on like being comfortable, and like stylish as well, something that was like cute for lack of a better word, or like we talked about, like you wouldn't feel weird going out to dinner
Yeah.
maybe in or it could be versatile in that way.
hmm What were some of the kind of decisions too that you were like what you were saying about like, okay, like where the material's coming from and like what were some of those other things that you were maybe a little bit shocked by in that process of like, oh, I hadn't really thought about that much and like, oh my gosh, that's actually like a huge piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, fabric is definitely a big one. Like we had so many different fabric samples, and even ones that had like very different properties or like different weights or whatever. It's like I'd
hmm
feel them and I'd be like, these feel
Well,
the same. Like I don't. So yeah, and I mean other things were just like, I guess just how many options like between the different stitching patterns, between like do we do a gusset versus not, like even the buttons, like what
hmm
color button do we want? Do we want it to be like a matte finish or a shiny finish, or just like, yeah, there were a lot of really small decisions, and we kind of quickly realized that okay, that we can't let any of this really hold up the process. Like we just got to be decisive and just kind of go for it.
yeah, can't get too stuck on the details of it all.
Yeah, yeah. Which is, I mean, I don't know. It's a very fine balance because obviously, like, the details matter, and like, we wanted them to be, perfect basically, and like be exactly what we wanted, but also, like, I feel like that could definitely hold you back in a way, or slow the process down a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. You were saying like this has been like a 2 year long process.
Yeah.
Um, when you first had the idea, was it something like I could imagine myself getting almost stuck in the space of like, okay, I have this idea. We're gonna have this out within like a year. Like when you
Hmm.
kind of had the idea, did you have a almost like deadline or expectation for like when it was gonna be done by, or was it like, okay, like we're still working full day jobs, we're just gonna start piecing this together like one step at a time and like see where it goes? And like, was it also something that you were so set of like, we're doing this, or was it kind of like, let's play around with this idea and then see if it's like something that we want to keep pursuing or not.
Yeah, I think, well, once we had the idea, and like I said, once we signed with our product design agency, it's like, okay, there's no turning back. Like we're definitely gonna
Yeah.
try to see this through to the end. But as far as timeline goes and deadlines, I think we had a rough goal in mind, which was I think last fall. But like I think throughout the process, we um there was so much of you don't know what you don't know. So it was kind of naive to even
Mm-hmm.
set a goal in the first place, I think. And that was the one nice thing about like this being kind of a side passion project is it was like there really was no pressure or stress to rush things. It's like, okay, let's take our time. Let's not like, add a bunch of unnecessary stress or pressure to our already busy lives. Like, we're gonna work on this consistently and like we'll get to the end when we get to the end. But yeah, we didn't really set like a hard and fast date. And even now, like as we're approaching launch, we've kind of like have been oscillating on like a couple different dates of when we would launch. But yeah, and we're so close. And now that we are so close, it's like, okay, like we need to make sure that all logistics are set up, like everything is in place so that the customer is going to have a really good experience. Like we've waited on this for so long, our like, friends and family and people who follow us have waited for so long. Like if we have to delay the launch date by a week or two, like I'd rather, have everything go smoothly and a week or two later than we anticipated. But yeah, no, going into it, we kind of just were like, okay, we're gonna go for this, but it's gonna happen when it happens.
Yeah. And for the launch, is that going to be mostly an online shop and then like
Mhm.
also have in-store stuff as well? Or like what does that whole process kind of look like?
Yeah, so online only to start. Eventually, I think the goal would be to get in stores and sell in person, or even have maybe our own storefront. But right now to start, we're just gonna do online
Yeah.
through the website. Yeah. I mean, it's hard because there's so many things that we want to do to
Yeah.
begin with. Like even with the pants, like naturally a lot of people ask, "Well, are you going to come out with like shirts or like other like garments?" And absolutely, that's the goal. But like we have self-funded this whole thing, and so that's put a lot of limitations on it. It's really all kind of a big experiment right now, and like obviously we hope the launch is going to go really well, and we hope people love them and the idea resonates. But like it is, at the end of the day, it is all kind of a giant experience, or sorry, excuse me, experiment. So yeah, I mean, if all things go well, then yeah, hopefully eventually we'll be able to get into stores, we'll be able to expand the lines. We're actually already working with our product designers on kind of next collection, even though we haven't even launched the pants yet, but just
Yeah.
based on kind of how long it took for the pants, it is a long, kind of lengthy process, so we want to get going on other ideas as well. But yeah, online to start.
Well, and what has some of like the marketing too kind of like looked like? I mean, it's like, and that's the thing too, when it's like you're starting a small business, it like you're wearing all the hats of like,
Yeah,
okay, we're the ones that are like actually making like we're getting the product out, but then like how are you marketing it like online and Instagram and like all of
yeah.
that?
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I chuckle sometimes. We get a lot of messages on Instagram, specifically like a lot of DMs from like influencers or from photographers or people who want to work with us, which is amazing. It's really
Hmm.
cool to see, but they'll usually message us and be like, "Can you like connect me to someone on your marketing team that I
You're
can
like, I
talk to?"
am the marketing team.
Yeah, well, that would be me. But, so, which I mean, I guess is like a compliment that they think that what we produce comes from like a whole giant team. But yeah, it's really just me and my husband at this point. Um, so yeah, I mean, as far as like the marketing goes, it's like constantly a work in progress. Like obviously social media is definitely going to be a big piece of us just because that is kind of I guess free marketing for lack of a better term. Like it doesn't cost to
Hmm.
post anything, and I feel like that's the easiest way to kind of reach the largest audience with the least amount of money, at least at this point. And then hopefully eventually we can do some type of like ambassador program or work with some collaborators or things like that. And then of course email marketing. So right now, like for example, since we haven't launched it, if you go to the website, it's just a landing page that says like input your
Hmm.
email if you want to get updates on like news and when we'll launch and things like that. And so like email marketing is something we're in the process of setting up as well. So but yeah, it's pretty much just kind of us chipping away at things. No real major process. And I mean, I feel like that's half the fun of it though. We're definitely bootstrapping this whole entire thing from marketing to, like any aspect of the business. So it's fun and challenging and exciting and all the things.
And I feel like it's one of those things too that like you just have to lean into the energy when it's there of like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm like super psyched on like focusing on this element of it today,
Yeah.
and then like maybe I'm getting a little bit burnt out from that, and then like moving on to the next piece
Mhm.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
hmm Yeah, but it's fun stuff. How have you been like what does your life look like with like with like being a mom, being
Yeah.
pregnant,
Oh,
working a full-time job, and doing
yeah.
like what's like a day in the life right now?
Yeah. Well, I'll like walk you through today, for example, because we were talking about just like the chaos of it all. So like I guess typical day in the life is I'm usually up around 6:30 with we have a little 1-year-old at home. He just turned 1 2 days ago, which is so sad. I can't believe it's already been a full year. But yeah, so I'm usually up pretty early, hanging out with him, taking care of him. And then we have a nanny that comes at 8. So she takes over Crosby, and then that's when I can log in and start working on my day job. I work remotely, so I work fully from home, which is really, really nice for a lot of different reasons. One, being a mom, of course, I don't ever like to be too far away from my little guy, so that's
Yeah.
really nice. And then just having the flexibility if I need to like go run an errand real quick or do something for Dirty Birdie. I try and kind of compartmentalize at least between the two jobs, of course, because just for professionality's sake. But yeah, I'm usually working my day job from like 8 or 8:30 till around 4, is when our nanny leaves, so I'll take over our for our son Crosby, usually hanging out with him and we'll go outside, we'll go take the dogs for a walk. We have two black labs at home, so that's another added piece of the chaos, but we love them so much. There are babies also. So yeah, I'm usually hanging out with him from like 4 to 6-ish, then usually make dinner. My husband will watch him while I make dinner. We'll try and that's like one thing that I've kind of been strict on. We'll try and sit down and eat dinner, the three of us, which usually for Crosby ends up like just throwing food everywhere and our dogs are vacuuming the floor for us. But yeah, we'll usually eat dinner together, and then he goes down around 7:30 or 8, and that's really when I start. Derek, my husband, and I will start working on Dirty Birdie for an hour or two. So that's kind of typical, but it of course fluctuates a lot. Or like today, right before this call, I our nanny had to leave a little early, so I took over for Crosby, or I was hanging out with Crosby, and I tried to put him down for his second nap, his afternoon nap, to like time it with talking with you. And as I put him down and he was crying, he wasn't fully asleep yet. And then the FedEx man delivered a package and left the door, like our gate open. So the dogs ran out. So I'm like running up the street chasing our dogs. I'm like, shoot, I'm supposed to be talking with Gracie right now. So yeah, I mean, there's always chaos happening around our house. And then obviously being pregnant, that's like a whole nother thing as well. So it's kind of crazy timing. I mean, obviously when we started this, I wasn't pregnant. We didn't have a baby at home, so it was a little easier. Like I used to actually wake up early and work on Dirty Birdie before my day job, and then had
Yeah.
the flexibility in the evening to work on it a little bit more. So yeah, I don't know, I kind of just try and squeeze it in when I can. And um lately I will say my husband has, picked up some of that slack, just with me being pregnant and tired and taking care of Crosby and that type of stuff. But yeah, it's very much a team effort, at least as of lately. So there's
Yeah.
always something chaotic, something exciting, something happening around our house.
Yeah, I was gonna say though, like that team aspect of it is really cool, especially like you and your husband being able to do it together and like
Yeah.
both having that like responsibility around like the
Mhm.
family and around like the business stuff that you guys are doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just really nice to have someone to bounce ideas off of. Most of the time it's really fun. Sometimes we want to kill each other, but most of the time it's really, really fun, and it's really nice to, yeah, just have someone to kind of talk through it with. And he does a lot of like the kind of numbers side of it, and He's good at like the bigger picture type stuff. So yeah, we
Yeah, I was just about
kind
to ask, like, what's that dynamic like in,
of
like, it sounds like, it seems like you're a very, like, idea generating person. And,
Mhm.
like, how do you guys kind of balance each other out in that team, like, element of it?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it was, I will say for the first like year or year and a half, it was mainly just me doing things like I was meeting with and coordinating with our product design team and we hired someone studio their handle I guess is Studio Chong. Her name's Addie. She's a really talented designer. We hired her for branding, so I was working with her a lot. So I did a lot of the kind of heavy lifting in the beginning, and then like kind of as it was like okay, we're like getting things going, we're like get it we have the physical pants now, or like we're getting samples of them. That was when I think Derek stepped in a lot more and I could like ask him for like what do you think about this? Or do you think this pocket's big enough? Or like, can you help me, start building out the website or things like that? So yeah, that was kind of when he started working on things with me. And he's actually a really, really creative person. He we joke that he's my fashion consultant. He has probably better style than I do. So he was a really good person to like once we started getting all the samples in and I would like try them on and stuff, he was a really good person to like give me feedback on that. Um but yeah, I mean, I think it just kind of naturally evolved and we naturally like kind of fell into our swim lanes of what we liked and what we're good at. We definitely don't have like a strict like, okay, you handle only this and I handle only this. Like we're kind of tag teaming almost everything at this point. I think once we launch, it'll probably be a little bit more like segregated roles, I would say, but just with so much going on and like especially with family life too, it's kind of like, okay, you do this, I'll do this, great. Like what do we want to tackle tonight? I don't know. I'll work on this. So there's not really yeah, like I said, we don't really have distinct roles at the moment, but I anticipate probably once we launch that might change a little bit. But
Well, I
yeah, I
love
mean,
it.
I will say running a business with your husband or partner, it definitely has its challenges, like highs and very highs and very, very high highs and very low lows. But at the end of the day, it's like, we both have the same goal. We both, are working like, I don't know, it makes it that much more special because we're both working on it together and trying to build something, great and lasting and that people love. And yeah, it's just really fun to share that with someone that, your life partner basically.
Well, it seems so much sweeter too, of like when you do
Yeah,
get to celebrate those successes, like you get your favorite person to celebrate those successes with, which is really,
exactly.
really cool. And yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I think because we're both invested yeah, it definitely makes like the sweet moments or like the kind of moments where we feel like we're winning or like we are doing it or whatever that much better.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So when were some of the first like um iterations of the pants? Like when did you kind of like first get some of the, oh my gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? The
Like the
first,
physical pants, like the
yes, when you
samples.
like, yes, the samples. That's what I'm looking for. When did you first get some of like the samples back, and like did you have people that you were sending them out to be like, hey, can you test these? Like, what are your thoughts on them? You were mentioning like welders specifically. Like, did you have
Yeah.
somebody that was welding and like wearing the pants and trying them out?
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember the exact timing. I think it was last summer. I guess it goes to show how long we like the whole process takes start to finish.
Yeah.
But I think it was around last summer that we got our first sample. I think it was like maybe last May or June or something like that when we got like the first pair of like physical pants, which was a really cool moment because by that point we'd already been working on it for a really long time. And so
Yeah.
it to be able to like have something physically that we could touch and feel in the actual pants was a really cool moment. But yeah, so once we got the samples, it was pretty much just friends and family. Like I was wearing around them around a bunch. I would like try and get my friends to wear them around, or I'd take them to like the girls' night and be like, "Hey, what do you guys think? Can you try these on?" Um, we didn't do, and that's something I probably would have done different, or maybe will do different for like like iterations or next garments or items that we create or next collections is um I didn't I didn't send them out to like actual trades women or like women that would really put them to the test till like later
Mhm.
on. Which maybe wasn't a bad thing because like, there were major things with like the fit and like function that we needed to tweak first anyways. So like I can't even tell you the size of the pile of samples I had. Like we went through a lot of iterations to try and get it exactly right.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the very beginning, it was pretty much just friends and family, like, hey, can you wear these around and tell me what you think? And then eventually, yeah, we would try and find, we found a few people that were willing to like, we would send them a pair and they would just give us feedback and we'd try and incorporate that. And I think one of the things too is like, the beauty of starting small is that I hope like once people, have access to these and can buy them, that like we'll get a lot of feedback and can incorporate it into the product. Because I mean, we're starting out small, so like our inventory, like our batch size is fairly small. So like once we
Mhm.
sell out, hopefully we'll like obviously reorder, but like can start incorporating what people tell us into the actual product as opposed to like, having a massive pile of inventory that we have to work through before we can make any changes to the pants. Um, that's the goal at least, is to hopefully be able to incorporate some initial feedback.
Yeah, well, and to like broaden out into like whatever that next collection ends up being. You're saying you
Yeah.
already have like some ideas for that. What are those?
Oh, so many. I mean, there's so many things we want to do, like shorts, overalls, like long and short overalls, coveralls would be really cool. Tops, like a work jacket, boots would be really
Yeah.
cool. All of that. So, yeah, I mean, the ideas are endless, which is a good thing, but also it's like, oh man, what do we pick next? So yeah, we're in the process of kind of figuring out what our next collection is going to look like. I don't know, to be honest, if it's going to be like an extension of the pants, like maybe overalls and shorts, or if it's going to be something completely different, like tops and shirts and jackets.
Yeah, no, it's so fun that you can just like take any idea you want though and like make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean the process is definitely repeatable, but also like it'll be interesting as we expand out to different garments as well, like what I'll learn there. Because I mean, like making a pair of boots, for example, is going to be completely different than making a pair of pants.
Yeah.
Even like, tops, it's like or jackets, it's like just a lot of different details. I mean, the process is kind of the same in terms of like, okay, design, sample, fit, production, but like what goes into it and just like the fine little details are going to be quite different. So yeah, it's fun. We're at a really fun point right now where it's like, we're seeing all the fruits of our labor, I guess, for lack of a better term, or we're seeing like all of it come to fruition, but it's also a little bit of a scary time because it's a major inflection point. Like my husband was joking with me the other night, like, okay, I guess we're at the point where we'll know if we have a viable business idea or if we're going to be giving away pants for Christmas for a really long time. So yeah, it's definitely an exciting and scary time.
Definitely. I mean, with the way I think it's gonna gain so much traction and just go so
Thanks.
many places. Why do you think it is that like you don't see more women's workwear pants specifically?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I know historically, like I think it's a little bit of like historical, cultural, societal norm. Like I think historically it was just like, okay, even dating back to like a long time ago, is like, okay, the woman stays home and is a homemaker and takes care of the kids, and the men go off and work in the field or in the mines or, have to go off to war
Hmm.
or whatever it was. And that was just like the social norm for so long. And I think we're so fortunate in this day and age that that's not the case anymore, and that women are given the same opportunity as men oftentimes, and that um like our presence in a lot of these historically dominated fields is growing so much, like women in trades is growing. I think COVID played a huge piece of it too. I think with COVID, like the DIY boom or like the DIY movement was huge. Like everyone was just home and didn't have anything to do. So it's like, okay, let's fix up our house because, we want it to look nice since it's where we spend 24/7 of our time. So I think DIY or excuse me, COVID changed a lot of that because I think a lot more women got into like power tools and things like that, which is amazing. That was so what something we haven't talked about yet, but I think is kind of been in the back of my mind throughout this whole process is the like empowerment aspect of it. So like for example, when we bought our house in 2020, I was the most illiterate, I don't even know if that's the right word, but like the most illiterate, like I didn't know how to make my way around a workshop. I didn't know how to use a drill. I didn't
Yeah.
know how, like I'd probably picked up a hammer maybe 3 times in my entire life. And but I, thankfully my husband is good at that type of stuff. So he would like slowly teach me how to use things. And I eventually got comfortable with most of the power tools in our workshop. And then eventually was like building things on my own. Like I was taking on projects myself and I would be like, okay, I want to build like a new couch side table. Okay, let me go to Home Depot and get the wood and, all of that. Um, and could eventually do it myself, and I think there's like nothing more empowering than being able to like stand back and look at something and be like, wow, I just made that with my own 2 hands. And so I think there's a big empowerment aspect of it as well that I hope to kind of portray through our brand and through our messaging, because like another thing is almost feeling like you look the part in a way, like almost suiting up or
Yeah.
gearing up in a way. Cause like
Yeah.
I remember when I first started doing like wanting to do projects on my own, and I guess you can't really tell through the camera right now, but I'm like a pretty petite person. I'm like 5'3", a pretty small female. And so I'd walk into Home Depot and I'd be like digging through the piles of wood trying to find the right piece or what I'm looking for or whatever. And I'd get like
Yeah.
the funniest looks from these giant big gruff men. And it's like, what is this like chick doing here in Home Depot? And it's just like, we can do it, whatever the men can do too. So I think there's an aspect of that as well, is almost like, okay, feeling like, you put on a pair of pants and it's like, I can do this, I can do anything. Um, so yeah, and I don't even
It was
remember
like
what
the
your initial
no, it's like the
question was. I kind of
uniform.
got off on a tangent, but yeah, just like
Yeah.
feeling like, okay, this is my uniform. When I put this on, I know I can do it. I know I can do anything.
No, I
So
fully identify with that. And like I think I don't remember if we were recording when I was talking about like how it took me so long to find a pair of pants, but like when I started
yeah.
doing the work that I was doing, just like
Yeah.
I do think that was a huge piece of it of like and like I'm not a fashion forward person, I would say. I
Me
would
neither.
say that I'm much more of like a utility person, but like when I was going to work, I wanted to feel like, okay, I'm actually showing up and like portraying a version of myself that is this like confident woman that actually knows what she's doing. And like,
Completely.
when I would like show up in like my hiking pants, I was like, I don't totally feel like this is like portraying that. And like
Yeah.
and then I do finally feel like I've kind of like come to like establish this wardrobe that is able to portray like what I
Yeah.
actually am doing. But it also just like it takes time to even like with the skills too of like, okay, like you just don't see a lot of other women that are like picking up a power tool and doing it unless you're like really putting yourself in that place. So being able
Yeah.
to like portray that message and empower women in that way is like so cool and unique and like
Yeah.
something that I still struggle so much with and like asking for help on things. I'm just like, oh, like should I even be asking? But like it's something that I want to learn. And then you see other
Yes,
women doing it and it's like, okay, yeah, like
100%.
sick, I can do that.
Yeah, completely. I know. And that's one of the things where it's like, really, if you want to learn something, and I think that's another like benefit that we have in this day and age in technology is like the access to knowledge is just like at our fingertips for anything. Like the amount of times that, I mean, I Googled or YouTubed like how to build this or like DIY plans for a garden bed or, whatever it may
Yeah.
be. And it's like we're so fortunate that we have access to really learn anything that we want if, you want to bad enough. So yeah, it's awesome. Oh, but to your original question about like why do you think there's not as many
Oh, yes, that
women's
was
work, right?
it.
I think that I know I was like, what was the original question? I kind of got off on a tangent. Um, I just think the industry hasn't caught up yet. Like I said, I think DIY blew up during COVID. I think a lot of women are like kind of coming into that, and like women in the trades is growing and that type of thing. And I just think the fashion industry, the clothing industry is a little bit behind. So yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that we can catch up and, hopefully we
Yeah.
can play a small part in that. But yeah, right now it's definitely very much swayed the other direction. It seems like there's just a gazillion and one options for men and not that many for women. So hopefully that continues to change.
Well, and you need women making women's pants. I think that's the other piece
Yes.
of it too. Like you do need women making women's clothes. One of the first episodes of the podcast was actually with a lady who does swimwear, and we were talking
Oh,
about it, and
cool.
like she was just bringing up how like so much swimwear is still made by men. And
That's
I'm
crazy.
like, right, that's why our swimsuits don't fit the way that they're supposed to.
It all makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, and so yeah, no, I do think that there's that huge influx of like, okay, yeah, you need like women making the pants
Yeah.
for women and also like having more women in the trades too.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of, especially the bigger brands and bigger corporations, like they started out with men's and then eventually like, maybe came out with women's or realized like, oh, women need these too, but it's like it ends up being an afterthought. And so, yeah, I totally agree. We need women
Hmm.
making women's clothes, not just
Yeah,
just workwear, but any women's clothes.
all of the clothes for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. How did you guys end up in Santa Cruz? And like, I know like started, are you kind of like, how are you also kind of thinking about integrating the business into like the Santa Cruz community?
Yeah, so we ended up in Santa Cruz. So prior to this, we were living in San Francisco, and my husband was commuting down to Santa Clara, which
Mm.
ended up being like an hour and 40 minutes one way.
Oh
So that was
gosh.
pretty, yeah, it was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
So after doing that for a long time, we were like, okay, we should probably move closer to your work. But he's from Southern California, so he's a big surfer boy, and so we wanted to be kind of close to the beach or have it be accessible. And so,
Hmm.
um, yeah, we weren't necessarily looking in like Santa Clara or San Jose, but we started inching closer and closer towards the beach, and then um, ended up kind of in the halfway point between work and the beach, which is amazing. I mean, I feel so fortunate to live where we are. We're surrounded by redwoods. We're kind of in the mountains a little bit, but we're super close to Santa Cruz. Everything's so
Yeah.
accessible, so it feels like we have a little bit of the best of both worlds. But I think for this area in particular, have you ever been to Santa Cruz?
I have. I feel like I would love to spend more time there. I've done a lot of like, oh, I'm gonna come and stay for like 2 nights on like a drive by. I went to school in San Diego, so I would drive
Oh,
from
cool.
Seattle to San Diego like 4 times a year
Oh
and
my
usually would
gosh.
try and wrap Santa Cruz into that somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a haul. Wow. Um, so yeah, I mean, you probably gathered when you were here, Santa Cruz is kind of a it's kind of like a rugged like mountainy type place. Like it definitely has some grunge and some character to it. So I think like the workwear is like even in from a fashion standpoint for a lot of women that aren't like
Yeah, I was gonna say
doing
it seems like they're
necessarily
pretty
things
blended
that need.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I would eventually love to get in some like local stores in Santa Cruz, and I think people like supporting local as well. So I think knowing that we're based here and that they're kind of, designed and, the brand is based here, I think people will really like. We don't really have like set plans of that yet, but that's definitely a goal. And I think just based on the style of like what people wear here and kind of the more grungy mountain look, it would fit in quite well. Um, which it's funny to think about because I think a lot of people, like when I say I live in California, just like the people that don't live here instantly think of like Southern California, very tropical, very Hollywood, very
Definitely. Yeah.
LA, but Santa Cruz is so different. It's very much a laid back kind of surfer vibe, a little bit more grungy, that type of thing. So I think the pants definitely fit in with like the local kind of vibe.
Yeah. No, Santa Cruz is such a fun combo too of just like you have that surf enthusiasm, but then you also just have like what you're saying, like more of that almost like rugged mountain-esque kind of
Yeah.
like groups of people, which is fun.
Yeah. Yeah, there's major mountain biking here, so it's like kind of
Yeah.
that vibe. Which
Yeah.
I not that I have time for another hobby, but we live like in the mountain biking mecca of like the country. So everyone's like, "Oh, you need to get into mountain biking." I'm like, "Well, I wish I had the time, but
Yeah, what are kind of like your primary hobbies at this point? Are you a surfer being in Santa Cruz?
no, I guess you could say I'm like a vacation surfer, maybe. I grew up in Michigan, so I did not grow up surfing like my husband did. But when we met and started dating, he took me a few times. And at that time we were living in San Francisco, so we'd only go when we were visiting his family down in San
Yeah.
Diego, where the water is nice and warm and the waves are way more mellow.
Yeah.
So I'll try and go a lot of time, like most times when we go down to San Diego, and I like truthfully I don't go enough to like really know what I'm doing. So most of the time Derek is having to push me into the waves. Um but yeah, ever since moving here, I think I've gone once in Santa Cruz. It's just way more localized. Like people are pretty into like I don't know. It's a little more intimidating. Like the water is really cold. The waves are bigger. People are can be a little bit mean because it's like this,
Yeah.
it's like localized in that way. So yeah, I definitely can't consider myself a surfer at all. That's very much more my husband's thing. But for me, I guess my equivalent is horseback riding. I don't ride right now, obviously being pregnant, and I had to take a break when I was pregnant with my firstborn, but yeah, that's kind of my passion, my hobby. I love horses. I started riding when I was, I think, like maybe 13 or 14. Um, and grew up doing like 4-H in high school and showed at like the county fair and all of that. And then when I moved out to San Francisco, I kind of picked it back up in college. I didn't really ride much, but then when I moved out here, I picked it back up, and that was when I started getting into jumping. So hunter jumper stuff is kind of what I do.
In San Francisco, did you just like how did you find somewhere to do that? Because I don't think San Francisco and horseback riding.
Yeah, I know it's not a very likely combo living in the city riding horses. So I used to drive. I just like went online and found a barn down in Pacifica. So it was like a half an hour drive from where I was living at the time. It was a really pretty barn. But even so, like it was kind of funny. You would like drive through a residential neighborhood, and then it was like at the very back of a cul-de-sac was this like barn tucked behind these few houses. So even then it wasn't like, out in this rural big where you would probably normally picture a horse barn.
Yeah, but
Um,
Pacifica sounds like a lovely place to ride horses. Like that
yeah,
is a stunning section of
yeah.
beach and area.
It's so pretty. Yeah, I
Yeah.
used to love driving down there. It was so gorgeous. And then yeah, when we moved here, about 6 months after we moved here, I found a barn in Felton, which is a neighboring town from where we live. And there's actually a lot of horses up kind of in this area once you kind of get up in the mountains a little bit, and things are a little more spread out. So,
So,
yeah.
big question, are you wearing your Dirty Birdie pants while you're horseback riding?
Uh,
How
oh,
do
when
they
I'm
fare?
horseback riding, I thought you were gonna
Yes.
say right now, and I was like, no,
No.
there's no way. They're gonna fit over my belly. My sister's always like, you need to create maternity work pants. I'm like, oh, that's actually not
You're
a bad
like,
idea.
that is actually true.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, I guess when I go to the barn sometimes, but I was usually wearing breeches, so like
Yeah,
specific
okay,
jean
that's true.
pants. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, I definitely think that the carpenter pant would be like a good barn chore pant for
Oh,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah, I
how
think
did
if I
you
were writing English and it wasn't as specialized, I would definitely like if I were writing Western, I would definitely be wearing the carpenter pants.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. How did you come up with the name? Or was it, I think I saw something on your Instagram of like, we didn't have like a set name and then it kind of just like
Yeah.
grew over time.
Yeah, so originally when we first started on the idea, we were calling it Tufts, Tuffs,
Mm,
and then we ended up hiring a branding agency, like I mentioned, Studio Chong. Her name's Addie, super, super talented designer. So they helped us with the naming. So we went through a whole naming exercise where we talked through like, okay, this is kind of the like ethos around our brand. This is like what we want to stand for. This is our mission, this is our vision, and then with all of that, they went back and did some brainstorming and then presented like a list of names for us. And we ended up picking Dirty Birdie because we thought it was fun and catchy and kind of different. And I liked that it was kind of like symbolic of women, like birdie as in women, but also like dirty, we're getting our hands dirty, like doing work and that type of thing. Um, so yeah.
it has a really good, like, it rolls off the tongue so well.
Thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. I like
Well,
it.
and like your branding person is incredible at what they're
Yeah.
doing. Like, yeah, and branding is such a huge piece of the puzzle too. It takes
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
I know. There's so much that goes into it. I was really thankful that we we found Addie and with her. They helped us so much, or she helped us so much. Because
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a major piece of it.
Yeah.
Of the
No, my sister's doing graphic design and branding, and whenever I'm like talking through things with her, I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, you're making me see things in a totally different light."
Yeah, after going through all this, yeah, I definitely come to appreciate more of that side of it. Or like if I'm online shopping for something different, I like notice way more about that now that we've kind of gone through it ourselves.
Yeah. Well,
Definitely.
and like along the kind of even deciding like, okay, here's what my skill set is and like what I want to spend my time doing versus like, okay, we're gonna hire this out. Did you kind of like pretty immediately have an idea of like we're gonna look for other people to do this, or was it a hard decision to kind of like release some of that?
Um, I think it was pretty easy to be honest. I
Mm-hmm.
think with not having any experience in any of this, it was like I knew pretty quickly that we were going to be way more well suited to just hire out the experts for this type of stuff. I mean, it's actually really funny you say that because we one of the things we've been doing recently is working on like finalizing the website. And so like product photography is a big piece of that, you know, on the product page when you're like swiping through or like looking at photos of the actual product. And so there's a style of photography called lay flat photos where it's like kind of exactly as the name says, it's like the flat, like on a white background, like just the product or the garment, like just the pants, for example. And my husband originally was like, I think I could do that myself. And we have like a nice camera at home that we just use for like fun stuff. And so he was like researching equipment to buy for it and things like that. And I was like, do you really want to try and like, you know, invest in all of that? Like, do you think you'll have the time to do that? And he was like, yeah, I think it'll be fine. Like, and then he very quickly realized how hard it actually is and how much of an art it actually is. And so we've been working with one of our friends, Tony, who's a professional photographer. So he's done all of our photos so far. And so we
Yeah.
ended up shipping him a few pairs of our pants to do those photos. And just even, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago, he sent us some of them back. And Derek was like, thank God I didn't try to do this because I mean, he's such a
Yeah.
professional at it. Like it took him a day to do all of them, and they're so good. I'm really excited. I think it's gonna look so good on the website. But it was funny, like, oh yeah, I can totally do that. No, I definitely cannot do that.
Well, and
So yeah, most of it was pretty obvious. Like, okay, we need to hire someone to do this. We're not gonna know what we're doing. We're gonna be like sinking big time.
Well, and I think even what you were saying at the beginning of this conversation too was like there's things that you just don't even like you don't even know until you start to get into it. And then you realize,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, there's so many different like skill sets to this and like yeah.
Yes. Oh, totally. Yeah. This whole process has been a lot of you don't know what you don't know, which is maybe good in the beginning because if you know like the process or like all of that goes into it, it might be a little bit daunting when you have an idea and want to go for it. I think it's a little bit of like ignorance is bliss, like, oh yeah, I can do this, but yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. But that's the fun of it too, getting to learn some of the process. Mm.
Okay, well, it's 4:22.
Oh my gosh, that went so fast.
I know. I always am like, how was that already like an hour?
Yeah.
Do you have anything else that you would like for people to know about these pants?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. I mean, I feel like we've already talked about a lot of it. I would say from like a product standpoint, like really my goal was to create something that was like really flattering from on like any women's body, like for women to put these on and be like, I feel really good about myself. I feel like I can do anything. They're very like functional in terms of durability, but also they fit really well and they're stylish in the sense that you could wear them while you're doing this really tough work and they'll hold up and be durable enough, but also like, they're versatile enough that you could style them and maybe wear them out to dinner, or you wouldn't feel weird after a long day's work going out to, a brewery with friends to grab a beer or that type of thing. They don't necessarily just have to be work pants. And then, yeah, I guess from more of like a kind of mission vision, like brand standpoint, really just like, it's been so cool seeing like something I didn't really anticipate in all of this is like once we went live, seeing like you and I were talking about before, I don't remember if we were recording or not, but just like how honestly, how many like badass women are doing badass things. Like there's so many women that are doing such cool things that I'm so blown away and I just like hope that I can continue to build that community and foster that kind of networking and being able to empower each other and all of that good stuff. So yeah, I mean, we're at a really exciting point. We're just getting ready to launch, but I'm hoping that this is just the beginning and there's a lot more to come.
Exciting. Where can people find the pants once they have launched? And also, I think this episode will probably come out like right when they're launching.
Probably right as we're
Yeah,
launching.
we
That's
can
awesome.
schedule it so that it's like that.
I love that. That would be great. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our website is heydirtybirdy.com. And Birdie's with a Y, so dirty and then BIRDY. And then that's also our Instagram handle as well as Hey Dirty Birdie. So those are the easiest ways to find us. At least for now.
Yeah. Well, I'm so psyched for these pants to come out and like everything that you're saying with this mission and vision and value and everything is just like I feel like people are gonna be so psyched on it.
Thanks. I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. It's definitely been a major passion project and we've put a lot of kind of heart and soul into it. So I hope it resonates with people. I hope they love it. And yeah, we're really excited.
Okay. I'm gonna end our recording there. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast today. And once again, if you enjoyed this, please give us a star or a thumbs up. It goes a long ways. And make sure to check out dirtybirdy.com or Dirty Birdie on Instagram and maybe buy yourself a new pair of super epic pants.